I'd like to thank Ian Hayes this week, who sent me an email wanting to know more about why certain wines age better than others. And so this week's TWTV is about why some wines age better than others. The main thinking behind how some wines age better is really all about balance. And the three key elements in a wine's balance is the acidity, the sugar, and the tannins, the dry tannins that are in the skins of the grape. And for a wine to taste good, all those things have to be in harmony and balanced. And certain wines, when they're younger, have very extreme tannins, very high acidity, and a high sugar content, and they take much, much longer than other wines that have very low acidity, low tannins, and lower sugar. Balance is the key. Now, there are two elements to this as well. One is quality, and the other is grape type. So on the quality front, if you're looking at the very lowest quality wines, they are generally made in an anaerobic environment, so without any oxygen. The grapes are not very stable, and therefore when you open a bottle of wine that is very cheap, that has been made in that way, the wine actually gets a huge shock when the bottle's open. The oxygen going in gives it a huge shock, and that's why if you leave a bottle of very cheap wine for several hours or overnight, the next day it kind of tastes like sherry, oxidized, because it can't cope with the oxygen. So those kind of wines need to be drunk young. On the other hand, the more expensive wines, that come from very stable, good quality grapes, lower yielding grapes, they are often produced in an environment with oxygen. So this could be in barrel fermentation or open cask fermentation. And those grapes, because they've been made and fermented with oxygen, they're resistant to oxygen. So those wines take a lot longer to age because they're not as affected by the oxygen, and therefore all those elements, the wine won't be destroyed by the oxygen, so you can keep it much, much longer. The other thing is grape variety. Now, I mentioned the importance for aging is tannins, acidity and sugar, and all being in balance. Now, certain grape varieties have a naturally higher tannin, acidity and sugar levels than others. The smaller the grapes, generally speaking, the higher the tannins, the higher the sugar and acidity. So Cabernet Sauvignon is a small grape. This goes into a lot of Bordeaux, and the wine will age for a very long time. Sauvignon Blanc is a much bigger grape, thinner skins. It's a grape variety that really doesn't justify much aging. The other element really comes down to the winemaking and the desire of the winemaker. Do they want to create a wine that's going to age for a long time, or do they want to create a wine that can be enjoyed younger? Now, preferences for drinking have changed over the years, and customers largely now are looking for a more appealing upfront fruity style of wine rather than a very austere dry wine like some of the traditional clarets. So the winemakers are, to ensure that the wines are ready to drink a bit earlier than the olden days, they tend to ferment the wines at a higher temperature and retain the fruit content much more. So the wines tend to be much more fruity and approachable younger. Another element, it's not just about price, it's not just the most expensive wines that will age. If you look at the natural winemaking process, which is often biodynamic wine production or organic wine production without the use of chemicals in the vineyard or winery, those wines tend to be less stable than wines made with chemicals. So if you think about sort of concentrated apple juice, for example, or UHT milk, this will last for a very, very long time. However, you buy your apple juice from a farmer who hasn't used much chemicals, you need to drink the apple juice quicker. Once you've opened the carton, it won't last very long. That's the same with biodynamic wines. So a lot of our wines that we produce, I mean, this is one that I'm thinking of, Bois-le-Vitterel from Saint-Chinian, biodynamic natural wine producer. Now, it's an absolutely superb quality wine, but because it's made without chemicals, the wine would be drunk, won't age as well as some other wines, so you drink it within 3 to 5 years. The way that people in the past have chosen the optimum time to drink their wines is by buying cases. So the best thing to do is get a little bit of advice before you buy the wine if it's a wine that you want to age. But then if it's recommended that the wine's best between 3 and 8 years, buy a case of wine, open it after 3 years, see what it's like, and open a bottle after 4, 5, 6, and then you can drink the wine at its optimum time. So there's a bit of trial and error, but it's a lovely experiment and it's a good way of experiencing it. What happens to the wine is, as the wines age, we are trying to get to that balance point. So the sugar and the sweetness, you move from kind of primary fruit flavours to, in red wines, primary fruit flavours evolve into sort of more herbaceous and more complex character. And the acidity drops slightly, the tannins drop, and the balance is there. But the benefits of aging a wine that can age is that you get the beautiful fruit still there, but with the complexities around it. So I hope that gives you a bit of help and a few pointers as to why certain wines age better than others. And keep the questions coming in. And if you like this video, please don't forget to share it with your friends. Thanks a lot.